Jody, how you doing? What's going on?
Doing good. I'm excited to be here.
I know, I'm excited to have you too. Well, first off, where are you at the moment? Because I know you were in the Himalayas for a bit.
Yeah, I'm at home in Sun Valley, Idaho at the moment, but just briefly. I'm heading back to the Himalayas soon.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like it's been like an incredible adventure. Have you been doing it for like a month now, or how long has it been?
I mean, I've been out there for about a month and a half, but this is my third season out there.
Wow.
So I mean, all in all, probably like 7 months I've been out there.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, I mean, it's just so fun. So
So
much cool
it's
stuff to explore.
yeah, it seems like it. It seems like it's kind of like your second home almost.
Yeah, I mean, I think my family's a little worried I might I might move to India, but
Yeah, I'm just gonna
yeah,
move to the Himalayas. Is that all right? Like,
yeah, no, I have been spending a lot of time there
right,
the last few years on and off. So
right.
yeah,
What is the reason for that? What was like the catalyst for that in the beginning?
yeah, I don't, it's just always been on my bucket list to solo motorcycle the Tibetan Plateau and the high Himalayas. It's something like I've always dreamed about for some reason. And then after COVID, and then I got a weird health scare during COVID too. I had they found a tumor in my abdomen and they told me I had 1 to 4 years to live. And then they removed it, and they're like, well, yeah, you're one of 8 people in the world to have this tumor. You're totally fine. You're good to go.
Wow.
And I didn't like the combination of all of it, like COVID and like, yeah, impending in death and stuff like. Um, I was just like, you know what, I just gotta do this. I gotta do this stuff on my bucket list. I mean, I've always felt that way, but I just feel like these things create like an immediacy, and I was just like, yeah, screw it. Okay, let's go do it. And then I did 3 months and I just was like having the time of my life. Like, I just was like, this is so incredible. Like, just I mean, there's something, I don't know, with me, it's like there's some things that they just like give you the ultimate feeling of freedom.
Mm.
And I would say that this is one of them, and then train hopping is the other one. And I think it's just like and I've really thought a lot about this when I've been riding the motorcycle. Like, what is it about this, like, just ultimate sense of freedom that these things
Right.
provide? And I don't know if it's like, I think big part of it is that you're like moving through the landscape in this open setting, right? So you're not in an enclosed vehicle or anything like that. You're like part of the environment and never really knowing where you're going, where you're going to stay. Like, I think every day I don't have really any clue where I'm going to stay that night. And then like what's going to happen. There's just, it's so much unknown.
Mm.
Um, that it's like that combination is like something just incredibly special for me, and I just feel so alive. And I'm learning so much about myself, and
Right.
like so many different things, and the people around me, and the landscape, and the culture, and um I just it's just so fulfilling to me and so exciting, and I just like, it's kind of like a drug for me. I just can't get enough of it. So cool.
Well, I guess that's just traveling in general. It's kind of like a drug. Like,
No, because I think traveling in general, like, most people know, where they're going to stay, kind of. They have
right,
a rough itinerary. They're often in a very like controlled, um,
right,
quote unquote, like safer experience. And mine, I feel, is like the opposite of that in a lot of ways.
right, Right.
Yeah.
No, maybe I wasn't very specific. I didn't mean how the general public travels. Maybe I meant like
Yeah.
maybe how like you and I travel, like how
Sure.
you
Yeah.
travel, you
Yeah. As a
know.
like an adventurer. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. It's a little different, but that's gosh, that's so epic. And then you're heading back soon.
Yeah, I'm heading back because I'm working on a few projects, like photography projects,
Hmm.
there. So I end up, I'm kind of in the middle of those, and they're kind of like bigger ongoing projects. So
Right.
yeah,
Sounds like you just need to set up a little base there, like a little set up a little house.
yeah, I know. I'm very tempted. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but
I'll have
see.
I'll have to come visit.
Yeah,
Seriously, I'm doing an Asia trip this year. Well, this and starting in January, so I'll keep you posted.
sounds
But
good.
well, anyways, let's get started. So maybe we can just do like a little introduction of like who you are and what you do for work, and then we can just like kind of unfold it from there.
Yeah, so my name is Jody MacDonald. I'm a professional photographer, adventurer, explorer. And yeah, I guess I specialize in remote locations and a lot of different adventure projects, I would say, and mixed with environmental and culture. They're kind of mixture of all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
um and yeah, I mean, I don't know, I guess that's the best way to sum it up.
Yeah, and so and I guess like where how did it all start for you? You were you rate you said you're in Sun Valley right now. Is that where you grew up or where did you grow up? Or
No,
like yeah,
yeah, I'm Canadian.
okay.
um but my dad worked for a Canadian telephone company and got a big contract in Saudi Arabia, when I was born, basically. So
Mhm.
I grew up in Saudi Arabia. I
Wow.
moved there when I was 2 and till 16. So yeah, my whole childhood was there. And I kind of tell people, like, I think it really started there because one of the perks
Mhm.
that the company gave my parents was like paid vacations, and my parents had never traveled anywhere. So every like school break and holiday, my parents were like, we're going somewhere, we'd never been, and which was everywhere. And so by the time I moved back to Canada when I was 16, like I'd already seen a big part of the world. And
Right.
and my parents were really good about not traveling to, I would say, like more Western countries. They were going to more like exotic places. And
Yeah,
I think,
remote.
yeah, just, unconventional places.
Mhm.
And I think, I always tell people, like, that's when I started dreaming about, becoming Indiana Jones. Like that's what I wanted. I wanted to be Indiana Jones. So, um, and yeah, it just kind of instilled in me this like dreaming of far off places and exotic places and having these adventures, and these, yeah, just I just started dreaming about that really young.
Right.
And then I came back to Canada and I got a bachelor in outdoor recreation, which everybody made fun of me for because they're like, that's not a real degree. And I was like, well, it was the closest thing to what I was really interested in. It
Yeah,
was
you're
like,
like it sounds nice. Sounds fun.
yeah, extreme sports and adventure. And it was like, why not? So then I did
Yeah.
that, and then became an outdoor, guide in the mountains of Canada, and then became like a rafting guide in remote, um, places in Alaska. And then it just kind of escalated from there. And then, I did my first photography elective in university, and I just fell in love with it as a creative medium. And then for me, it was kind of like a lightning bolt going off, going, oh my God, I can combine my passions of like photography and outdoor adventure by taking my camera with me and documenting these amazing experiences that I'm having. And I never really thought about it as like a potential job or anything. I just knew that,
Right.
this is something I was really, really excited about. And it yeah, so I was just like, I'm just going to pursue this because this is what I love, and this is gets me excited every day. And so then I just started doing that. I just started taking my camera and all my outdoor adventures, and then I got an opportunity to start sailing in the South Pacific, which then led me to creating a global kiteboarding business by catamaran.
Oh,
And so then I lived at sea for 10 years, um, circumnavigating the world a couple times during the business. And it was like surfing, kiteboarding business.
or were you taking photos at the time, or were you? Was it like sales or like touring or
No, it was
guiding?
so I created a business that did 5-year world kiteboarding expeditions. And
Wow,
it worked like a kind of like a golf membership, but for kiteboarders. So when they bought a membership, it'd give them a cabin for 10 days every year for
wow,
5 years. And it would take us 5 years to sail around the world. So every year someone would come out to the boat. We were in a different part of the planet. And
right,
we specialized in really remote locations. And yeah, I mean, that's basically how it worked. Um,
wow,
and so did that business for 10 years. And I thought, you know what, if I want to take photography seriously, now is my chance. I'm in these incredible places having these amazing adventures with pro athletes, and
right,
I just thought like it's now or never. And so I
yeah,
started taking my photography really seriously while I was doing that. And that's where my photography career really, started to progress over those
right.
years.
How long ago was that, or how old were you at that point?
Oh my God, I don't even know.
You're like, let me count on my fingers.
Yeah, I want to say
So like
I
it
was
was
in
right after
my,
uni, and
well,
then
I
you
was
were
in my,
on.
yeah, I was in my late 20s when I started, and then sold that business like 5 years ago.
Oh
So
wow,
yeah, yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
So
And then it's just progressed from there. Like it's just been
right,
this, you know, um, kind of just slow growth
it,
kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I mean every job is an adventure, and you're always traveling to remote, exotic places. So I'm sure it's not hard to get brands on board, or to pick up jobs along the way, right?
Yeah, I mean, the photography industry's changed so much over the years, and it's just like I think previously it was you would get a lot of, like I would get a lot of assignments, and now
Right.
that's all changed, and now it's like a lot of pitching, and then you
Yeah.
know sponsorship and commercial work, and I always tell people like it's just kind of like right now I just try to find all these different ways to keep the crazy train going, like
Right.
just because I love my lifestyle so much, and it's just yeah, you just adapt to the changes, and yeah, just try to keep it all going.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, for me, I couldn't imagine doing anything different. So you got to
Yeah,
adapt and keep changing, and not stay stagnant.
yeah. I mean, I can't. Yeah, like I'm like you. I can't really fathom doing anything else. I'm not
Right.
sure if I could handle it.
Like a 9 to 5. Could Jody do a 9 to 5?
Well, honestly, like people tell me like, well, what I'm afraid of, and honestly, it's like the 9 to 5 is
Yeah.
is
Same.
one of my worst fears.
Yeah.
It's literally for me, not, I'm not definitely not judging anyone else, but for me, it just like stifles my soul, and I just can't. Yeah, I just don't even want to comprehend it actually.
Same. You're gonna get like anxiety thinking about it. We
I
can
do.
move
I
on.
like talking about it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting stressed out.
Oh my gosh. Well, and when you were like starting photography, how was it with your, I mean, I guess you were already like an adult at that point and already finished uni and had your own businesses, but I mean, it sounds like your parents were pretty adventurous living in Saudi Arabia, I guess, taking that job and going to more exotic locations. Were they supportive of your lifestyle of like living on a catamaran or like pursuing photography? You're like, hey, I'm gonna do photography. Were they like, what? Or they were like, wow, that's cool, do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think at first they were always like, you need to get a real job, you need to um have benefits and have something for retirement and stuff like that. But
Right.
then I don't know, somewhere along the way, I also, when I did get a real job in Vancouver for a couple of years just to try it out, because I felt like, I should just, before I judge it, I should
Yeah.
just try it to see how it goes. And I actually became a photo editor for Mountain Equipment Co-op, which
Oh,
is Canada's largest outdoor retailer.
right.
And so I did have an office job for a couple of years, and they were super excited. And then I had this boyfriend at the time that ended up dying paragliding, and
Wow.
I I think something switched in them after that.
Hmm.
Um, I think watching them go through like my grieving and just trying to navigate that whole thing, they were just kind of like, you know what, we just want you to be happy, whatever that looks like for
Right.
you. And so then when I started sailing, I mean, I think they were always like, you know, we just want you to be okay, but if this is what you want to do, then we're all for it. So, and then the photography thing was always like I mean, I was always doing the sailing thing while I was doing the photography thing, so it was never like, photography was the like taking a leap into that. It was always just like a side hustle, and that progressed, while I was running the other business. So,
Right.
um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like they've always been really supportive, and I think, um, growing up in Saudi and them taking that position over there was very unconventional
Right.
for them. And I think, like, they tell me that all their friends and family told them not to do it, like Saudis, Middle East, like very strict Muslims, scary place,
Conservative.
really scary for women. And my mom was the one who really pushed my dad to take the job. And I think that really opened their eyes to, you know, kind of not doing, not listening to what everybody says and kind of doing something unconventional, and like
Yeah.
the benefits of that. So I think that helped a lot when, with me, at least, and my siblings, just to, be more understanding about being unconventional.
Right.
So
I mean, it sounds like they definitely grew from that experience.
100%. Yeah, definitely.
Wow. That is
Yeah,
amazing. Very cool. Seriously. I mean, it's not probably not too many kids that grow up in like a foreign country and, like that and have
yeah,
those experiences and grow up go traveling to exotic locations. So, I
yeah.
mean, when
Really
you're a
fortunate.
kid, you like look back, you like I mean, I feel like if I was a kid and my parents were traveling or living in these remote, like exotic locations, I'd be like, no, I just want to like, I'm from personal experience. I'd be like, oh, I want to just like be with my friends. I want to stay in one place. But then you look back on those times when you're older and you're like, wow, that was such a special moment. So for you, like when you were a teenager, were you like, oh, I just want to like be in a normal place. I want to be back in Canada. Or were you just like thriving in those environments and
Yeah, I would say I was thriving because it was exciting. It wasn't
right.
boring. And I
Yeah.
think I think that was the really special thing. Like, I remember sometimes in the summers we would come back to Canada to visit family and stuff during break, and I remember like talking, like meeting kids my age and hanging out with them, and they had never gone anywhere or seen any places that I had seen, or um and I just remember thinking like, oh, I'm so lucky to have this
Yeah.
exposure, and it is really exciting, you know.
Right.
Um, and yeah, no, I just feel very, very fortunate for having that. And like I feel like that was more exciting almost than being tied to like certain friends, you know. I don't think I've ever had the mindset where I was like, no, I don't want to go somewhere because, or I don't want to move because I want to stay with my friend group. I was always more excited about the opportunity of the adventure of places, new exotic places, of like change,
Right.
than wanting to stay the same, if that makes
Right.
any sense.
And were your siblings the same as you, similar, or were they kind of a little different in that regard?
No, I mean, we're all pretty similar actually. I'm the youngest, and the
Mm-hmm.
thing about Saudi is that you can't stay there beyond grade 9. They don't want like they won't allow you to because they don't want Westerners. I mean, it's different now, but they don't want Westerners like integrating into
Oh.
society and then like settling there, you know, like living
Oh.
there.
Huh.
So
That's
after grade
interesting.
9, they would kick you out. And so I'm the youngest. So I stayed in Saudi the longest, whereas I have two sisters and a brother, and my sisters, so they went to, all of them went to boarding school, but like a ski racing boarding school in the States, and they were all professional ski racers.
Wow.
And my brother spent the most time with me in Saudi, and he's now an Alaskan bush pilot, and he's extremely adventurous. I mean, he's kind of like a MacGyver. Um,
Wow.
and so we're all kind of similar, but I definitely am the biggest gypsy. Yeah,
That's the word, gypsy.
yeah, nomad, gypsy. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
That that's so good. I'm sure they all really look up to you though. The little
no, I
sister
mean, I don't
traveling the
know.
world.
Yeah, I don't know if they look up to me. I think
No?
no. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. But like, they think I'm crazy to a certain extent, except for my brother, because my brother's crazy too.
A
So
bush pilot, like,
yeah, I mean, he's yeah, yeah,
yeah.
very
That
adventurous. Yeah.
well, it sounds like a very cool, interesting family you've got. That's really amazing.
Yeah, really fortunate that like we all get along really well, and we're all really supportive and respectful, and you know, I feel really lucky because I always thought everybody's family was like that until I became older, and then
Far
you know,
far from it,
yeah, I'm
honestly.
just like, wow, I'm really lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. Makes me a little jealous.
Yeah.
Honestly, but so cool though. Well, I guess we can talk more about like the photography side of your work. Like, so you've been a freelancer for basically since you started photography? Is that how
Yeah.
it's been?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like most photographers I know in the like the Nat Geo adventure space, I mean, I feel like we've all been freelancers for a long time.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I know like so I guess we can talk a little bit about like how we even like got introduced to one another. So basically I like reached out to you because like since I do freelance as well, and you know the I guess the highs and lows of freelance, it's pretty extreme sometimes, and I'm, you know, like the past few months has been pretty slow for me, so I was like, oh gosh, I need to reach out to somebody who's been like doing it longer than me. And you know, so I mean, I obviously knew about you from Gitso, and because you know I work with low pro a lot, so that's why I reached out. But I mean, that conversation really helped me, so I really appreciate it. And but I wanted to ask you, like, what, in your opinion, like, what are the pros and cons for you personally of like freelance life?
I mean, I think, you know, I think the number one thing that stands out with freelance is just the uncertainty. It's a roller coaster. I mean, there's just
Yeah.
ups and downs. And I mean, I would say that, you know, that is a massive con in general for a lot of people.
Yeah.
which I think is just so scary for so many people, like just
Yeah, the
never know.
uncertainty.
Yeah, the uncertainty and never knowing, like, uh, you know, um, how much money I'm going to make this year. Like I go to my bookkeeper, my accountant all the time. He's like, I'm like, I have no idea. I can't tell you that. Like like some months it's great and some months it sucks and some years it's great and some years it sucks. And, it's just, it's so unpredictable and not knowing, yeah, so many unknowns, like how much I'm going to make, when the money's going to come, when it's not, I mean,
Right.
um, and so I think that's a con, but that's also it's also a huge pro for me. Instead of like fearing it, I think, I've really learned to embrace it. And I use the down times as kind of like a fire under my ass to make me work harder to create more up times. And
Right.
I kind of love that, like if I think if everything were comfortable all the time, um, it would, I just don't think that would be that good for me. I
Mm-mm.
really like to hustle, and I like that motivation that gives me, the freelance lifestyle gives me. But I also understand that that's it for many, many, many people. That is incredibly challenging and difficult and
Right. I
stressful.
mean, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, if you're not doing anything too, then that, I guess it can, you can get in your own head pretty easily. I feel like
Oh,
if you're just
100.
sitting around and like waiting for work,
Yeah.
then that's pretty, can be pretty detrimental to probably your mental health.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard for the people who've been doing it for a long time because, like I said, the industry's changed a lot. And I think those
Mm,
days, in the old days, you used to get these calls to go do things and assignments, and Nat
mm-hmm.
Geo would say, "Hey, go do this," and you know, um, and so I think for a lot of the photographers who've been around a long time, that was a hard adjustment. It's like, oh well, now I have to think of this stuff and I have to pitch, and now I mean, if you're going to wait for stuff to happen, it's not going to go well for you anymore.
Right.
I mean,
Do you think?
you get it
Mm-hmm.
sporadically, but you
Yeah.
can't rely on it. It's
Yeah.
not history anymore.
Do you think that has a lot to do with like competition? There's just more photographers out there, or is social media changed that, or what do you think that is? Why?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of factors. I think it's competition. I think it's since COVID. I feel like the industry's changed massively since COVID. I feel a lot of companies have been a lot more hesitant to spend money they were the way they were before, and I think that's still happening since COVID. I feel like it's still a thing. Like companies are still unsure of
Right.
just spending those marketing dollars the way they had before COVID. Um, and yeah, I just think and the whole editorial has died since then, or is dying.
Yeah.
And print magazines are definitely on the way out, and I would say that's increased a lot in the last 5 years. We've seen that decline massively, and maybe that's
Yeah.
also a side effect of COVID.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's just this combination of so many things. Yeah, that it's
Yeah.
hard to really pinpoint.
Pinpoint. Yeah. Yeah. It's tricky, honestly, for photographers. I mean, I've been speaking with like past few years to like some of the photo editors at Nat Geo Traveler magazine, and
Yep.
they'll like reach out to me and be like, "Hey, like we want like very specific photos. Like we need these photos from Mumbai, like
Yeah.
of this like specific river or like this I don't know, like something so specific that I'm like, they rather than commission photographers to go to
Yeah.
there, they're like trying to get photos quick and easy and reach out to all these photographers to try to get something like cheaper, you know?
Yeah. It's like a
So
different
it's,
form of stock in a way.
yeah,
Yeah.
they just don't want to pay the money. I don't know. Yeah, it's
Well,
definitely trickier these
they've
days.
lost a lot of their money too, so it's just like a crackdown on a lot of, you know, budgets
Right.
and the way that it's changing, you know. I think, like Nat Geo, they're they're making so much more money through the TV side of it and
Exactly.
the video side of it that there's no money funding coming into the magazine so much anymore like it used to be.
Right.
So, and I think that's happening everywhere. I mean, that's also, social media and how, you can see it with Instagram and TikTok, like all these videos do so much better than stills now, so
Right.
it's just, yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
I, I
Yeah.
think,
It's
I don't know though for sure. I'm kind of talking out of my ass right now. So,
Yeah. It's not. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. I'm just gonna nod my head. I'm like, yep,
okay.
yep,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Makes sense. But you said something that really stuck with me when we were talking. You're like, yeah, like all my friends that are Nat Geo photographers, they go through the same stuff. The ups and downs and the uncertainty, right?
I think probably, I mean, I would imagine every creative, but
Mm,
does that. I mean, I think it's just the nature of the game, but I mean, particularly, I can only really speak to photography, but yeah, 100%. Just talking to my friends and, just hearing what people are saying. And it's just, yeah, we're all going through. I mean, I just think it is the nature of the beast. But that's it. You got to learn to kind of love it and adapt to it rather than kind of bitch about it. I think.
right. Or like let it suck you in because that's my problem. I'm like sitting around looking at social media and letting it get to me rather
Yeah,
than I should just be like fuck it, like I'm gonna go get a motorcycle and drive through the Himalayas
yeah,
like or
yeah,
something like that. I should,
yeah.
because that keeps you
Well,
inspired and it keeps
a
you
hun-
shooting.
100%. And then I really noticed that. Well, I, I've, no, I definitely know that in order to find these cool projects and find these stories, you got to be out in the world. Like you're not going to find
Yeah.
them at home. You're not going to find them sitting on the computer. You're not going to find them. You have to be out there experiencing stuff. And that was like the other thing with the motorcycle thing. I was just like, you know what, like sitting at home's not doing anything for me,
No.
on so many different levels. I mean, yes,
Mm,
it's comfortable,
it's
but
comfortable.
comfort doesn't do anything good,
No.
so it was like, okay, let's just, you gotta take the leap. You gotta jump off the deep end. And then, like, yes, you don't know where it's going to lead, but I 100% have learned that you do have to take the leap for all this other stuff to happen. And
Yeah.
you don't know what it is, but it will happen if you're out doing stuff. And so you got to go out there. You got to just do stuff,
Yeah.
and hopefully you're doing stuff that you really like, and like you said, inspires you and keeps you inspired, and all that kind of stuff. So I just think that's so important. Is like, so many people ask me, how do you find the stories? I'm like, you got to be out in the world, you
Right.
know I mean, all like my most popular stories have all been kind of byproducts of me just being out somewhere, and just one thing leading to another and leading to another, and like, oh my god, like this is so
Right.
cool.
Just organically.
Yeah, yeah, you got to be out in the world doing things, talking to people. And the other misconception is that like all this stuff takes money, and I strongly disagree with that on so many levels, because like, for example, my motorcycle trip right now, I like, over the last 2 months I've been out there, I've spent less than $1,000, and just being out there. I mean,
Wow.
yes, my flight costs,
The
a
same
thousand
price.
$1,000. But like when I'm here, I spend so much more than that just being at home.
Yeah.
Like
Four,
my
$5,000 expenses. Like,
100%. Like I'm spending a quarter of what I would traveling around the Himalayas than I am just being at home, working from home here.
right.
Like the cost of living for me, basically, yeah, just being here is so much more expensive. And it
Right.
makes me think, like, why am I even here? Like, I can be out learning all these things, being out in the world, having these amazing adventures for a quarter of the price, you know? Um,
So true.
and yeah, it's crazy. Like, people think it just costs so much money, and I'm like, I can guarantee you what you spend here is so much more. Just maintaining, even, like, just from like food, gas, not even buying like excess things, just
Right.
basics.
Just like surviving. They're just like basic
Just surviving.
needs.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's
And
crazy
like,
right now.
when I'm traveling, I like eat out 3 meals a day, but my meals are like a couple dollars each, like,
Right.
I just got takeout last night for like one meal for myself, and it was like almost $30, and I was like, wow, I could have so many more meals, like, in India for one meal I'm getting here, it's just crazy. It's
Yeah. It is a major misconception that people have about traveling, especially in like Asia. Like,
Oh yeah, especially in
y-
Asia. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I lived in Sri Lanka for almost a year, and people think that I was just, I don't know, that it's just a major misconception that it's expensive. I'm like, no, like, I'm
Yeah. I
spending
mean,
like, yeah,
yeah. I mean, I think people think that like you're at a resort or something, uh,
right,
spending all this kind of money on hotels, and it's like, no, my hotel and I know in India is like $10 a night.
right.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Just
it's a nice hotel. I'm sure it's like
and it's
nice. Like
nice. Yeah.
$10 for India is
Yeah, I mean, it's
pretty good.
the equivalent of probably like a Motel 6 here, or like
Right.
something Holiday Inn, maybe.
Yeah.
Something you'd be spending $100 on here. Um,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. It's just crazy. But yeah, I mean, you got to let people figure it out on their own, because
Oh,
so
definitely, definitely. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because there's only so much you can say to people. People get like stuck in the hamster wheel, and then they keep getting, and they just do the same thing what everyone else is doing, and it's easy for
Yeah,
them to just
and you think you have no options, and
right.
that's the thing, you have so many options.
Yeah. That's how I
Um,
feel. Like people feel like they're stuck in their
yeah,
life and they
yeah,
can't get out. There's no way out
yeah,
ever. And I'm just like, you just don't understand how easy it is just to say F it all and
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
change whatever that is, your relationship you hate or the job you hate or
yes,
whatever that may be.
yeah. You got to take the leap.
Got to take the leap, honestly.
Yeah.
But, well, as far as like advice you would give for, I guess, somebody pursuing photography or starting out, would you have any advice for somebody like that?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people that you got to want this job pretty much more than anything. Like, you got to be willing to do, you got to love it so much that you can't imagine doing anything else, because that's what it's going to take. And you got to love it so much that you stick with it, that you don't quit, that like, because you need that persistence to really, I think, succeed in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all those ups and downs, you need to love it so much that you're kind of like, fuck it. Like, I can't imagine doing anything else. So, how do I make this work? You know?
Right.
And I think you got to be willing to do a lot of, at least for the type of photography I do, a lot of uncomfortable things. And that's because, like, I love it so much. I don't mind sleeping in a ditch, or like a rat infested hut, and like all these
Yeah.
things. For me, that's like no big deal, because I
Yeah.
love what I do so much, and what, the experiences I'm having. And so
Right.
you have to really want it.
Exactly.
And I think that's so important on so many levels. I would also say, try not to do what everybody else is doing on social media.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of say this over and over. I like to judge a lot of photo contests, and like, I remember a few years ago, I was the judge for the Nat Geo travel um, contest, and I was like, I said like publicly, do not submit photos of Iceland. Like
Yeah,
don't, I don't want to see one more picture of Iceland. I don't care how beautiful Iceland is.
right.
Like and then everybody's just taking the same pictures of
So
Iceland.
generic.
Yeah, these all the same photos and all the same places. And I was like, your work's never going to stand out if you're doing what everybody's doing or you're doing what anybody else is doing. Like
Right,
you try to figure out what you love to shoot and shoot it really well and shoot it in a way that's unique to you, and try not to just like copy what you're seeing on like social media and stuff like that. So you gotta um I think that's really important too, because I think, yeah, so many people end up taking, the similar kind of stuff. And even though
right.
it's beautiful, it's like, well, yeah, but there's also 100 other photographers taking beautiful pictures of the same thing. So why would yours be any better or stand out any more? Like why would you think yours is unique? So figure out, how you can tell these stories in your unique way, and hopefully they're different than a lot of other people's, because there is so many incredible stories to be told
Yeah,
everywhere all the time, and
100%.
you just kind of have to a find them, but b like, how can I tell this in a way that hasn't been told, or show this in a way that hasn't been shown, or you know um I think that's really, really important. Also, be critical of your own work. I don't see enough people be really critical of their own work. I always tell this story when I was a photo editor at a mountain equipment co-op. I remember I'd go to parties or something and someone would say, "What do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm photo editor at MEC." And they were like, "Oh, really? I just did this amazing backcountry ski trip and I have these incredible photos. Can I
Mhm.
send them to you?" And I knew instantly that they wouldn't be very good, because you're telling me they're amazing and incredible,
Right.
means you're not being critical enough.
Yeah.
If somebody were say, "Oh, I have these photos, can you just take a look at them?" I would be way more intrigued by that comment than I would be someone saying, "I have these amazing pictures." Because I think as you go through photography and you learn what is a good photo and how hard it is to take a really good photo, like I am a firm believer that, like, you may take maybe 10 good photographs in your lifetime, maybe.
Mhm.
Like, that's how hard I think good photography is. And so for someone just to say I have incredible photos, I'm just kind of like, wow, you don't get it yet. Like, you have to,
Right.
it's fucking hard to take really good photographs.
Yeah,
And and you need to get to the point where I think you realize that, and then that's saying something, like, so
exactly.
I think being self-critical is really, really important. And I mean that I mean sounds obvious, but at the same time I don't see it enough, you know
Right. Yeah.
um and yeah, like, I think if you think you're taking really amazing photographs, I think you are still very amateur.
Mm.
you know I think you have a long way to go. It's because you haven't realized how hard it is to take a really good photograph, or what maybe
Yeah.
even a really good photograph is.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly.
so yeah, and then other advice. I mean, I think that's those are the biggest ones. Like, I think you're always trying to improve your craft. So being critical is also really important, because I think it forces you to be, experiment and try to be better all the time. Like,
Mhm.
how do I, being self-critical for me, it's like, how can I make this photo better? How can I make these better? How can I get better? And I think that's also really, really important. So it's like persistence, self-critical, and trying to yeah, do stuff different, be unique with your work. Kind of like that's how it stands out, is like
Yep.
when you have stuff that nobody's seen, or like I said, just show it in a different way. maybe it's been out there for a while, but if you can show it in a different way, then I'll also make it stand out. So
Right. Great.
I would say those are the main things. If you could do those things, I think you're going to be
You're gonna
successful.
win the photo contest. You're on.
Well, you're definitely, going to go places, I think, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure. Well, I think that's all really, really great advice. I know when we were talking last time, we were getting in like a heated, not a debate, but we were getting really heated about what was it, the about future generations, and I can't remember the.
No, I was trying to remember what we were got so fired up about.
Yeah,
Were we
you're like
talking
it's a
about
dis. You're like it's
debt?
a disservice.
We were talking about debt.
Debt.
That's what.
Okay.
Uh,
Well,
weren't we?
maybe we can talk about that, but maybe we can talk like another question I wanted to ask, and it's relatable. I think is like, what would you want to tell future generations? But I think this has a lot to do with that what we were talking about last time,
Well, I mean, I think we were talking about debt in regards to
like the younger
education.
generation.
Well, educational debt and how
Right.
like
Right.
that's a huge disservice because
Yeah.
we were talking about now how people think especially for school you have to you get into all this unless so many people can't afford it. It's so expensive, so you
Yeah.
have to borrow all this money, and then it really should be criminal because then you get out of school and you feel like you have no options because
Yeah.
now you have to pay all this debt. So then, oh my god, I have no options, so like I have to take the first job that I can,
Yeah.
decent
You're
job that I
forced into that.
yeah, and then you're kind of locked in. Like it takes away all your freedom in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And to a young person, like how big of a disservice is that? Like I mean,
Right.
you just are limiting like they feel like they can't do anything and that the world is not their oyster because oh god, I've got all these bills I need to pay now and so now how what I'll take anything. I'm desperate,
Right.
basic and desperation just and then you get locked in and then it's like routine and then you can it's like this vicious cycle where you kind of I think a lot of people feel like they can't get out of it.
Well, yeah. Well, and you're around all the same type of people. So it's hard to
Yeah,
even get an outside perspective on anything else. Like
yeah,
everyone's in debt. Everyone
exactly.
has gone to
Everyone's doing it.
university
Yeah,
and
exactly.
got in debt and doing jobs that they hate, and it's
Yeah,
like this like negativity that everyone has, and
yeah,
just work your
yeah,
life away, and it's like, what? Why are
yeah,
we? I
yeah.
don't know. It's kind of
And then
crazy.
before you know it, like your whole life ends up passing you by and you've been like you know for a lot of people I think they've been quite miserable and it's so sad. It's just
Yeah.
really really heartbreaking.
So what's the solution? Like how do we change this, like, I mean, obviously it starts with the young generation going into uni. Like what would you recommend, you know?
Well, I mean, I think for me I was like really fortunate that I ended up going to university in Canada where the cost of university was I mean I think mine was $6,000 a year.
Wow.
um, when I went and I, that was amazing for me because and then when, I was finished university, I didn't really, have this huge debt load that I needed to, focus on. I really felt like I had kind of unlimited options. As it was more
Mhm.
like my problem was like, oh my God, now what do I want to do? Because I
Right.
can't do anything.
Yeah.
What does that look like? And that's also debilitating in a lot of ways, when you have kind of too many options. But
Endless options, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I would say like, I think it's just so hard. If you want to be a doctor, lawyer, or something like that, then I think
Very
then
specific, yeah.
yeah, then the debt makes sense because when you're after you're doing a job that you want to do and you can pay it off. But if you
Mhm.
don't, then I would say like, you know, maybe reconsider going into all this debt to do a bachelor of arts in specializing in English, where you just, when you don't know what you want to do, then you don't want to end up with this massive debt load
Right.
that then ends up being like handcuffs when you're in prison, that gives you no options. And like I always tell people too, like, the things that you own, if they end up owning you, then that's a massive debilitating thing as well. Like, don't be afraid to own $1,000 vehicle. Like, you
Yeah.
don't need to go have a huge lease and have this really
Yeah.
fancy car for what?
Keep
I
up with
mean,
the Joneses.
yeah, I mean, I see so many people doing
Yeah.
this stuff where you don't need the fancy iPhone and you don't need all this shit that we think we need.
Yeah.
It really, it's about choices, and like, how much do you want to have? Do you want to travel or have these experiences? And if you do want to do that, then then maybe I would say, like, stop paying less, stop spending money on all this shit you don't need.
Yeah.
It's not giving you any fulfillment in life. Like, I
No.
don't want any of that stuff. Like, I hate
No.
debt because for me, debt means it limits my options. So it goes against freedom for me. And
Yeah.
so I'm always like, how do I minimize my debt? How do I live as simply as I can so I can spend my money on these experiences I'm having, like in India and stuff like that, where they're so fulfilling and rewarding for me on so many different levels that I like. That's what I want to spend my money on, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so it's like a lot of these things, and if you live somewhere that's really expensive, to me, I'm like, wow, go live somewhere in Asia where, you can live so cheap. And I just think there's so many opportunities now that you can do, work remotely, work online, do stuff online, that you don't need to be locked down to, like, living in San Francisco or something where the cost of living is just, crazy.
Yeah.
Um, I do think we have so many more options than we think we do,
Right.
but the more we go into debt, the more those options, limit us 100%. So, um,
Right.
I would say, you know, try not to get in debt in any way, shape, or form, because it really does limit your options.
Yeah. No, that's such good advice, honestly. I mean, I feel like it's so interesting. I feel like in society, we're always told we have to do these things to live a better life. To,
Yeah,
you go to uni, go get this job, go get the
yeah,
nice cars and houses or
and
whatever, start a
get married
family.
and have kids, and yeah, it's like
Yeah, and that's the
active.
thing we're told our whole life, and that's what's going to make us happy, but I find that's like a lie,
Well,
and it's like furthest
it's
from the
yeah.
truth. So why are we being told this our whole life? You know what I mean?
Well, because I think it's a number of reasons. I mean, I think, in a capitalist society, it's like, oh wow, we get people to buy more shit. Um,
Yeah.
make these companies richer and these big
Yeah.
conglomerates more money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
think
and the
also,
government's not going to be like, "Oh, everyone just go travel the world and live your
yeah,
best life and no one pay tax," or like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I get it. I get it.
And I also think a lot of people like structure. I
Right.
think
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't know what to do unless
Right.
they're guided or told what to do, and they want to be told what to do. You know,
Right.
I think that's the other thing. And there's nothing like that. Just, I don't want to say that, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not my personality in terms of
Mm.
like, which is why I haven't done the conventional thing. Just because
Yeah.
anytime I've done the conventional thing, or what society, quote unquote, is like told me to do, I've tried it and I've been like, no way. Like, this is
Right.
killing my soul. This is,
Yeah.
to me, the opposite of living. And
Yeah.
that's for me. Um, so then I keep going against the grain,
Yeah.
because,
You're
um,
going further against it.
yeah, no, totally. Because I just feel
Yeah.
like it's so much more rewarding. And
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, honestly, every time I go, for some reason, when I go back to the States, every year I just feel more and more like disconnected. I don't
oh,
know if
100,
that's how you, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it's getting harder and harder for me, and I don't know if it's me changing
right,
or the US changing or a combination of the two. But like I've talked a lot about this with friends recently. I'm just like it for me re-entry into here is so much more difficult. Like when I'm in India, Indian culture too in particular, they don't prioritize like working the way we do.
right.
Like they socialize a ton. Like I do this a thing on my social media, or definitely when I was in Rajasthan, I do like chai with strangers, which I kind of made a rule for myself. Anybody asks me to drink chai, which is like local tea, I have to say yes, like no matter
I
what.
love that. That's
And
great.
it was because like every time I did it, I ended up having this incredible experience. And like the things that it led me to was just kind of like mind blowing. And so I was just
Right.
like, you know what? And then like so but they always want to drink chai. They always want to be social and like you end up drinking chai and chatting with people in the street for hours in the day and like just it's um and the other thing is like I don't think about money when I'm
Right.
there. Like
Yeah.
the cost of living is so doable that like I am not worried about like how much I'm spending when I'm going out to dinner or like I all this or where I'm staying or all these kinds of things. Like I just money doesn't consume my thoughts. So
Right.
it
Exactly.
makes way for all this other stuff and like I'm so much more social and I actually have like a really good friend group because I meet all these people and we're like always just doing very social things and then when I come home everybody's just so busy with their jobs and the 9 to 5 and all this stuff and it's because like they're in debt and they've got to make money to pay off their debt and it's just
Yeah.
so money driven,
Money. Yeah. It
like
is.
how much is this meal costing, like we can only go be social one time a week or whatever, like it's just all consuming, like how
It
much are my
is.
groceries costing, like oh my god, this small bag of groceries just cost $100,
Yeah.
um it's just so like it's so noticeable for me now. um
Me too. It's like a
after being
vicious
away.
cycle.
And I was just like, "Oh my god, like this is
Yeah.
horrible." Like
Yeah.
and it's harder to see my friends cuz like everybody's so busy,
Mm.
and I just find that the opposite. Like being in Asia and more specifically India because that's just where I've been recently, but like people want to hang out and people want to like, it's just I don't know, and it's so hard coming home now. It's just like
I know.
uh, we are going down a big rabbit hole that feels horrible to me and goes against like what's really important in this world,
Yeah.
you know?
Me too. Me too.
And yeah, it's scary. I don't like it. It's just yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I hope things change, but it's not looking good. And I don't know. Yeah, I feel the same, honestly. I just feel so disconnected every time I go back, and it's like the more debt people get in, the more of the idea that you have to make more money become like that's the thing. Everybody just wants more money,
Yeah.
but they get in more debt.
Yeah.
So it's like so fucked up, honestly. It's
And they're
crazy to
just
me.
and then if they make more money, they just raise the bar for
Yeah,
more stuff that they need and the more debt that they have and it's just like
right. Never
wow.
content.
Yeah, never enough, never content, and definitely not happy, you know?
No.
Like just just in that permanent state of like, oh, I don't have enough, I need more, I need more, I need more.
Right.
It's like, wow, that's just such a bad mindset to be in. Like how do
Right.
you enjoy anything in life when you feel like it's never enough? Like what you have, what you
Exactly.
are is never enough. And so it's just like, wow, you know?
And I also
It's
find like people
it's no
push those
wonder like
insecurities too.
yeah, well,
They push their insecurities like on me when I'm back. Like, "Oh no, you're doing the wrong thing." But my life is fine. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like I find that too. Like every time I go back to the States, I'm like, "Hold on, am I doing the right thing?" I almost feel like I'm like questioning my life when I go back because it's like other people's insecurities,
Yes,
you
100%.
know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and they don't even want to, like, I noticed, like, they don't even really want to talk to you about your experiences because
No,
it
never.
makes it makes them feel worse about their
Yeah.
choices, and it's just yeah, it's all not good. And
No.
I don't
No.
know, yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but like it's
Yeah.
definitely not money. It's
No. It's
like we
far
need to
from it.
stop being consumed by money. It's just I feel
Yeah.
like it's ruining our lives.
Maybe we can be like consultants on like the opposite of like
And
how to
charge no
not make money.
right. And I'll charge you no money because
Yeah, it'll be well, no, yeah, it'll be free,
yeah,
but you'll love it. It's gonna be great.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, I know it's bad. Well, we're already at an hour, and I think we're just going down a rabbit hole with this. We're just gonna get more and more angry if
yeah,
we keep talk, talking about this. So maybe we'll end it pretty soon. Maybe,
okay,
hon, I just want to ask you like a couple more questions.
yeah.
So the listeners can find out more about like. So like, do you have any new projects coming up? You said the one in India. Can you talk more about that real quick?
Yeah, well, I'm working on a book is one of them,
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm working on another project about um, water. So they're having a water issue in the high Himalayas, which is a really big deal because the water that comes from the Himalayas is, they provide water for the subcontinent, so like
Wow.
millions and millions and billions of people. So yeah, I'm working on a project with that as well, and then I'm trying to film a TV show
Mm-hmm.
as well. So kind of
Cool.
working on all those three things, and yeah, like I said, they're big projects, so hopefully they'll keep me there for a little while on
Yeah.
and off. Yeah,
That's so exciting.
yeah.
Well, epic. Well, last question. How do listeners find you? Where can they find your work?
I mean, and they can find my work on my website, jodymacdonaldphotography.com. But I would say the latest and greatest stuff is is Instagram. I'm big in Instagram stories because I just find it's like the easiest way to do social media is just do like,
Mm-hmm.
stories all the time of what's going on. Um, so yeah, if people want to see what I'm kind of up to in the Himalayas and stuff, that's the best place for sure. And
Okay.
that's
And then your Instagram is Jody
Jody
MacDonald.
MacDonald photo. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, awesome, Jody. Well, thank you
Well, I'd
seriously
love for
so
you to
much.
join me in the come visit me in the Himalayas. Let's go
Look,
for
you
a
don't have to like twist my arm,
ride.
honestly. Like I think I may have to do it. I don't know if I can like are you going to be there for the next few months or what's the plan?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I'll be there for the next couple months, and then I'm gonna try to move into Nepal. I would love to get into Tibet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
just
said you
keep.
have friends that know the king in Tibet, right?
Oh, and that's Bhutan. Yeah,
Oh,
that's a
Bhutan, not Tibet. Sorry. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I'm
I mean,
mixing up kings here. Sorry.
yeah. There's so many cool places to go, and I want to
I've
go into
always wanted to go
Mongolia.
to Tibet as well.
Yeah,
I
so
may have to join you. Seriously.
I don't know.
I have a friend going to
I'm gonna have too much time.
Kazakhstan next
Oh,
in October, and he wants me to join and
should
ride some
definitely,
horses in Kazakhstan.
should definitely.
Um, because I have a wedding in October, beginning of October here in Europe, and then I was planning on doing Kazakhstan with him. But if not, maybe come meet you
Yeah, you
potentially
should.
if
You
you're
should
still there.
definitely. Yeah, I mean, who knows where I'll be,
Yeah,
but
yeah, we'll
but
see.
definitely
We'll
come
figure it.
visit.
Yeah, cool. Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you seriously so much for this past hour of just talking and getting to hear your story. And yeah, I think it'll help. I think it'll be like a good perspective for a lot of people, especially Americans, maybe.
Hopefully, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I think so.
I mean, the more I know, the more I've learned, the the thing I have learned from traveling as much as I have is that you know, I really know nothing. You know, like that's the thing I that keeps getting like ingrained in my brain is like the more experiences, the more places I go, the more I
Right.
learn, more I realize I really
The
know
less you
nothing.
know.
The less
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
The more
Yeah.
you know, the less you know, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense. But it's just like everything's so complicated and so multi-layered, and
Yeah.
I think that's why I have a hard time with the news nowadays because I'm just like, well, that's like one perspective, but there's like always like 10, and
Exactly.
um yeah, but what little I do know, hopefully it maybe helps some people. I don't know.
I, I think it will. Honestly, I think it will. And yeah, it's just interesting. Travel just keeps you so open minded that, and just like it's just like, so there's just always something new to discover, you
Oh
know,
yeah, it's endless,
and
endless,
yeah,
endless
so
good
much
stuff.
to learn. Yeah. So,
Mhm.
well, seriously, thank you so much, Jody. It was so cool to
Yeah,
chat,
it's good chatting with you.
and
Thanks for
and
having me.
I'll see you soon in India,
Sounds
hopefully.
great. Yeah, do it.
Okay.
Um,
I'll talk to you soon.
okay, see you.
Okay.
Bye.